Okay, guys, these are going to be some pretty important notes. I told you yesterday this is kind of the hardest concept of the whole unit. It's not, there's really no memorization involved in this. It's more kind of understanding the larger concept and what blood types actually mean. So for these notes, your best bet is to either just copy this down or print this off. If you are good working with your computer, maybe you could take notes directly on this, but you'll be drawing on these red blood cells, so it'll be kind of difficult. So I posted the Google Doc. I would just pause the video and I would go copy this chart and this chart below. Okay, if you do that, you'll be in good shape. You'll have really good, strong notes. Okay, so you're going to copy this chart and you're going to copy this chart. Okay, the title for this is just blood type compatibility. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on the notes. So here we have the 8 major blood types. Yesterday we said we had type A, B, and O, but realistically the ones that matter for blood transfusions are actually A, B, and O, and A negative, B negative, A, B negative, and O negative. Okay, so there's actually 8 major blood types. There's probably, I don't know, millions of actual blood types if we look at all the possibilities of things outside of the A, B's, and positives and negatives. But these are the most important ones. These are the ones that cause the most problems. So these are the ones we're going to take a look at. All right, so what does it mean to be type A? Okay, we did talk about this yesterday. It means physically on your red blood cells, these are red blood cells, you have a little protein. It doesn't look like an A, okay, but you got a little protein, a little chemical thing right there that is called antigen A. Now, doesn't matter if you're A positive or A negative, you're going to have that chemical marker. Okay, so what does it mean to be type B? Well, right there, it means physically on your red blood cells, you have that B antigen. Okay? Now, before we move on to these two, let's talk about the immune system. What else does it mean to be type A or type B? Well, it means you have the antibody that will attack the opposite antigen. So, if you're type A, not only does it mean you have an A antigen on your red blood cell, but you have an anti-B antibody, which means your body will recognize and attack a B antigen. Same thing down here. Anti-B. Okay, let's keep going. The last thing we'll talk about is the difference between positive and negative. All right, so over here you have a B. That means in your blood plasma, in your immune system, you have an anti-A. Same thing down here. Okay, so what does it mean to be type AB? Well, type AB means you have both. You have both A and B antigens on your red blood cells. So your red blood cells, they have a little more decoration on them. Is that a good thing? Well, most of the time it doesn't matter. Now, if you think about this, if you have A and B on your red blood cells, your immune system can't have these anti-A or anti-B antigens. So we're going to leave these blank for now. Type O. Type O basically means you don't have either one of these. Okay, it's not type C because there's not actually an antigen on there, so it's just type O, meaning nothing. But in your immune system, you have anti-A and anti-B antibodies, which means your immune system will recognize and attack anything with an A or a B. This is why, well, we'll talk about the universal donor later. But same thing down here with the negative. You have anti-A and anti-B. Okay, now the only thing we haven't talked about yet is the difference between positive and negative. And this is a pretty important difference because these negatives and positives can cause a ton of problems if you get them mixed up. So To be AB positive, what this means is you're positive for an additional antigen. And we're going to call it the Rh antigen. I feel like I've heard it called antigen D as well, but we're going to call it the Rh antigen. So you are positive for the Rh antigen. Same thing with B. You're positive for the Rh antigen. And this is very common, meaning most people are Rh positive. Here's the kicker. The most common blood type right here, O positive, you still have a very common antigen on your red blood cell. Okay, so that's what it means to be positive. You have an extra antigen on your red blood cell that I'm going to call the Rh antigen. Now, down here, what do these people have? These people are negative, which means they don't have the Rh antigen, but fortunately, they do have the anti-Rh antibody. So in their immune systems, they have an antibody that will recognize and attack an Rh antigen. So they all have anti-Rh. Now, as we can see, there's only one blood type that has nothing. They don't have any antibodies that relate to these major blood types. And there's only one blood type that has all the antibodies. So what does this mean? Well, this is where we get our universal donor and universal recipient from. Here, we have the universal recipient, meaning because they have no antibodies with respect to this stuff in their body, they are the universal recipient. They can take blood from all 8 blood types. And down here, this O negative, fairly rare, is the universal donor. So these people are pretty popular. They're always going to get calls to ask to donate blood because they don't have any antigens on their red blood cell, which means they can donate blood to all 8 blood types. Now, unfortunately for these people, they have all 3 antibodies, so they can only receive blood from other O negative people. So even though this blood is in high demand, if you are O negative, there was ever like a blood shortage, you could be in a potentially dangerous situation. Okay, so we got the universal donor and the universal recipient based on the fact of their antigens and antibodies or lack thereof. Okay, now the next part, I'm going to talk about how the compatibility works. So we've talked about what it means to be AB negative, and all the positives and stuff like that too. So make sure these notes are perfectly accurate. You don't want to get these messed up. So some basic trends in compatibility here. We can see that negatives can donate to positive versions of themselves. That should make sense. So if B negative wanted to donate to B positive, that wouldn't be a problem because the only antigen on the B red blood cell, B negative red blood cell, is B. And because B positive doesn't have an anti-B, negative B could donate to B positive without any problems. Okay. So what do these antibodies do? So let's say I donated B positive to B negative, okay? So it doesn't work that way because if I take this red blood cell and put it in the body of a B negative person, their immune system is going to attack because this anti-Rh is going to recognize this cell. So what we're really saying when we're talking about blood compatibility, we're wanting to be able to transport blood from one body to another body without that new body recognizing it. Okay, so on the next video, we're going to go through and look at filling out this chart and filling it out accurately. Okay, so once again, how does blood compatibility work? If I can safely receive a blood transfusion from somebody, what I'm actually saying is, can I get cells from their body without my body recognizing it? Okay, that's the whole purpose of blood transfusion. If I get that wrong and my body does recognize it, not only does my body kill those red blood cells, which I lose that, whatever life-saving thing I was getting from those, plus it could clot and cause some major organs to shut down. Okay, all right, so stay tuned for the next video, and we'll go over this chart together.